The NCAA National Championship Trophy is the ultimate prize, as 68 teams will soon set their sights on the city affectionately known as the Big Easy. But the road to the Final Four is an arduous one, and being the last team standing in New Orleans will be anything but easy. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Welcome to the NCAA March Madness Men's Bracket Preview. The madness is still a few weeks away. It's great to be back alongside my colleagues Clark Kellogg and Seth Davis for our 6th bracket preview show. And the most important guy in the room, the one we can't do without at all today, is Tom Burnett, chairman of the Southland Conference and chair of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee. Good to have you here. You know, one of the things that we all remember, is how heavy COVID was weighing on us, and it still is a factor. Is it a factor in the room this year?
Well, it's very different this year, as we all know, across our society. But, we don't have the shutdown issue we had in 20. We don't have the controlled environment that we had in 21. So we certainly hope that we're back to a more normal tournament at the 14 sites, starting in Dayton and rolling all the way to New Orleans, like we've talked about.
And yet we're still in a pandemic, and there are still health and safety issues to be navigated. How do you plan on navigating them? Well,
health and safety paramount for our participants, certainly student athletes, coaches, fans, et cetera. But I think we're going to be in a good spot. We're going to have to follow local medical guidance in all of our communities, and that may vary from site to site. But with more vaccinations, more boosted individuals, we feel that we're in a good place, and we can be normal again.
I feel like we're in a really good place. So exciting to think about. We're only 3 weeks away from launching the first official step to the road to the Final Four, and all of the excitement and unpredictability that this tournament is and has been. It's great to be thinking about that going forward.
All right, let's take a look at the regional sites. Last year's tournament, you will remember very well, confined to the state of Indiana. Starting out west in San Francisco, and San Antonio will play host to the South Regional. Chicago, the Midwest, Philadelphia will host the East, and the Final Four returns to New Orleans for the first time since 2012. So without further ado, let's begin the reveal. Tom, starting with the number 1 overall.
Number 1 overall seed going to the West region is Gonzaga. Great quality wins that swayed the committee this week. They beat Texas Tech, they beat UCLA, they beat Texas, having a fantastic season.
And Seth, you're not surprised because you're an AP voter and you've had the Zags number 1 for a long time. So why do you think they're number 1?
Well, people like to talk about their league, which obviously is not on the level as some of the other candidates. But as Tom mentioned, their non-conference schedule is always very arduous, and the league is actually a little bit better than it's been in the past. We'll see if that's the case 3 weeks from today, because these other teams have a chance to get a lot more quality wins than Gonzaga does.
All right, let's go through the next 3. Let's go number 2 overall.
Okay, number 2 overall seed is Auburn, headed to the Midwest region. Fantastic year for the Tigers. Certainly 24 wins, leads the nation. Just 2 overtime losses on the road this year. So fantastic team this year. 13 wins in quad 1 and 2, I might add. Moving on to the South region is Arizona as the number 3 overall seed. Fantastic. Only 2 losses this year on the road at UCLA and Tennessee. And then rounding out the number 1 seed line is Kansas, headed to the East region. Kansas has 9 quad 1 wins, so that matches the best in the country. 14 wins in quads 1 and quads 2.
All right, guys, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm interested. As I've watched college basketball, there looks like a lot of compression. How tight was this group in terms of differentiating them from one another on this one line?
Great question. First, I would tell you Gonzaga and Auburn in the committee room, very close, razor thin. I would even offer that in the discussions, an extended discussion between these 2 teams. And, they have different, opportunities, as Seth has mentioned, but very close in the room. Likewise, I would tell you that between Auburn and Arizona, that's also razor thin. A lot of discussion between those 2 teams for the number 2 overall seed. Maybe a little bit more of separation to Kansas in the 4 position, but certainly a high-quality number 1 seed line.
And I'm not sure the public always understands that the committee actually ranks the entire field 1 through 68. And why is that important? Because Arizona would much rather be in the West. So if there was ever an opportunity, and there might not be unless Gonzaga falters, but this is why the overall seed line is so important, why they spend so much time scrubbing it to get that order exactly right.
Excellent. All right, guys, we've got now our top 4 seeds. Tom, how about number 2 seeds, giving us 5 through 8?
Absolutely. Number 5 overall and first on the 2 seed line is Baylor. The committee really recognized Baylor's quad 1 wins, 9, which ties with Kansas for the national lead, 13 quad 1 and 2 wins for Baylor. Having some injury issues now, the committee certainly is looking at player availability as we go forward, as we have to keep an eye on Baylor. After Baylor comes Kentucky at the number 6 overall position, 5 quad 1 wins. You know, as I mentioned earlier, there was some razor-thin comparisons on the 1 seed line. I would say that Baylor and Kentucky were really close to Kansas here for that final spot on the 1 seed line.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on to the number 3 seed line, we start with Villanova.
The rest of
I'm sorry, forgive me.
That's all right.
We go to Duke. I'm sorry, they are the number.
We got Purdue at 7.
Purdue, forgive me. Again, number 7 overall seed, Purdue solidly on the 2nd seed line, followed by Duke, as I mentioned. Again, having an outstanding season, and the committee felt really good about that choice.
So I'm guessing some folks are looking at what you have here in the East and say, did I remember Kentucky beating Kansas by 18 at Allen Fieldhouse, or was that a dream? Why that order in the East?
Well, we all remember that, and certainly the head-to-head would come into play if they were right next to each other on the seeding line. The issue here is Baylor and where the committee put Baylor in there. So committee felt very strong about Baylor at the number 5 overall spot. So that provides a bit of an issue. Of course, Baylor has a head-to-head issue with Kansas as well.
So if Kentucky could jump Baylor, then that head-to-head would come into factor, I think, more with Kansas?
The committee would spend a lot of time on that, sure.
Tom, we move on now to the number 3 seeds, 9 through 12.
Okay, the number 9 overall seed, first on the 3 seed line is Villanova. Villanova was in contention for the 2 seed line, got edged by Duke there. Duke has those wins against Gonzaga and Kentucky that made a difference, but Villanova's been fantastic, great strength of schedule, 12 wins in quad 1 and 2. Moving on, we have Texas Tech, the number 10 overall seed. They're on the 3 seed line. They have 11 wins in quad 1 and quad 2. Really compared them with Villanova strongly there, but really felt that Villanova had a better road record at this time, as we thought. Next comes Tennessee on the 3 seed line. Volunteers have big wins against, quality wins against Arizona and Kentucky. Strong strength of schedule came into factor as well. And, you know, didn't quite get to Texas Tech because Tech has the head-to-head win against Tennessee. And finally, on the 3 seed line, we have Illinois. Again, the final team there, 11 wins in quad 1 and quad 2. They do have some injury issues, and player availability is going to really come into question as the committee really deliberates this in 3 weeks.
I see those blue bloods in the East region. I know that's what I'm going to be watching. But Villanova being allowed to play in Philadelphia, which is usually not the case, why is that okay?
Well, in the order of how we place teams into the bracket, it really comes down to geography. And Villanova has only played 3 games at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. If you play more than 3 games, then you're not allowed to play at the location there locally. So we're following our bracketing practices, procedures, so nothing unusual there. We didn't go, we purposely put them in there, but we can't purposely take them out either.
All right, now rounding out the top 16, Tom is going to give us the number 4 seeds.
Okay, the number 4 seeds are led by Wisconsin. 8 quad 1 wins, 12 overall in quads 1 and 2. Edged by Illinois for that final spot on the 3 line due to a head-to-head Illinois win recently. It's really strong on the road, 7-2 for the Badgers this year. Next comes UCLA. Really have some great quality wins over Arizona and Villanova. 6-3 road record as well for the Bruins. Next comes Providence. Wins over Wisconsin and Texas Tech. 11-3 in quads 1 and 2. Really an outstanding year for the Friars. And wrapping things up here is Texas. They were among a group of about 4 teams we looked at for the final spot. But the Longhorns got the edge with quality wins over Kansas and Tennessee.
Tom, you talked about how the committee discussed a number of these teams really being close in terms of differentiation on the seed lines. I'm curious as we look at the 16, who else might have been considered for the 4 line? Are there a few teams out there that were considered for that last seed line?
There are, and the 3 other teams for that spot were Alabama, Houston, and Ohio State at this time. That could change over the next 3 weeks, but those are the 3 we were looking at.
Yeah, this is a projected bracket.
Projected, yes.
Yeah, projected bracket. Yes. And you've got a question about
we know about the net ranking.
Yeah.
So Providence is 29th in the net, and Houston is ranked number 4 in the net, yet Providence is there and Houston is not. Why?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, the net's been a great sorting tool for the committee, but it's not the be-all, end-all for us. For me as a committee member, for others independently thinking, I look at the net as a really kind of a first step. I want to see why that net is that way. We've all watched Providence. We've all watched Houston. You know, Houston certainly has an issue with a lack of Quad 1 wins this year, whereas Providence has a lot of Quad 1 opportunities in the Big East Conference, and they've taken advantage of that.
Well, again, this is our 6th year doing this bracket preview show. And if you are wondering which teams have made the most appearances, Duke, Gonzaga, Villanova, Kansas have all made the top 16 in 5 of the 6 years. Terrific, Tom. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward. Tom, gee, you might have guessed this. 3 weeks from now, he'll be back tomorrow on this Election Sunday when the field of 68 teams for the year's NCAA tournament will be announced here on CBS at 6 Eastern Time.